Alrighty, everyone. We are back with the 11th episode of the PiP, and as always, I have my friend Khalid here with me.
Hello, everyone.
We have a few topics for tonight, some gaming news and some more D&D news, sort of like just touching on the new book and everything. Now, before the podcast, you said you found the game that slipped under your radar.
Yeah, actually, Josh was telling me about it. I wasn't too sure on the name, but so from the Supermassive games, the ones that brought us things like Until Dawn and The Man from Medan.
Yeah.
So the Dark Pictures anthology, it's called Little Hope.
Yeah.
It does say that it came out October 30th, so it's still relatively new. But yeah, it looks kind of interesting. This now taking place, well, at least by the trailers itself, New England, dealing with just this family lost and whatever horrors may be presented in front of them, and then it seems to cut back to more times of like the Puritans and something that kind of reminds you of the Salem witch trials. So seems very interesting. Did you play The Man from Medan?
I did not.
Again, very good. Had a lot of, had one like recognizable actor in it. Just like what they do, they kind of pull actors that you recognize, but they're not like really big names. But The Man from Medan was okay. They kind of skirted away from supernatural elements, which I think kind of makes the game. It's kind of rare to see a well-done horror game that deals with the supernatural element the way that they did.
Yeah.
So I actually like just like the heavy rain and Detroit becoming human. You know what I mean? Where there's permadeath and your actions have that effect, kind of thing. So I thought it was really good to have that kind of concept to it. So hopefully this one kind of sticks back to its roots of horror, supernatural.
Yeah. Recently, I remember like last year, horror game night, I was talking about how I wanted the Blair's Witch Project game. Do you remember this?
I do.
Well, guess what became free on Epic Games?
Oh, okay. Are you gonna?
I already got it. I was about to say, I think we need to have another scary game night.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny that you said that because I was suggesting to Josh, it was like very interesting if we did a scary movie night.
Yeah.
I think that'd be kind of fun, just to scare the kiddies in some way.
Yeah, I think a scary movie night will be good.
Speaking of like scary movies, how was your Halloween?
It was pretty eventful. D&D combat went surprisingly well. No one died, although there was a high probability of them dying, so it's pretty, like, I would say there was only one punch pulled from that encounter on my end, and it was the lightning strikes, because one lightning strike almost killed 2 people instantly. And that was hilarious to watch the reaction to. But I can see, like, I didn't want it to keep being one-sided and overpowered kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
When you say all in all, how did you feel the balance of the encounter was?
I'd say if all components were there, it would have been very, very balanced. Especially if the monk had like appeared out of nowhere, then it would be like, oh my god, this is gonna be epic. Other than that, It was very good. I very much enjoyed creating it.
Wonderful. I think that's like the pinnacle for DM. If you think it's fun, and not just how it in concept, but actually the creation aspect, and then actually getting to play it and seeing how the players react to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Halloween, I came back here, watched a lot of YouTube, started listening to a lot of music. Got in, well, I'll talk about that later in the final segment, what I listened to, because I think that'll fit well with there. How about you, though? How good was your Halloween?
Pretty great, I think. Did some traveling, went to see some old friends. Did a little candy handing out. Ran around a bit. I did not get to obviously run the game for our Halloween. I guess would be considered. Well, I guess so. Yes, for all those who follow more of Sam Hain, then technically November 1st is still Halloween.
Yeah.
Right, so, but yeah, my way of saying is that, well, since I love the holiday and the season, and it is technically fall, and who says that I have to wait only around Pumpkin Day to introduce anything ghastly or creepy or atmospheric things, but definitely good. It was a nice little vacay.
Yeah, the moon was very beautiful.
Oh, okay. I don't think I caught the blue moon.
What? What do you mean? That was like the best part. So did you want to go or like touch on the Tashas couldron thing?
Yeah, I can touch on that. But what? Now, do you have? Did you have like a holiday, like a Halloween tradition that you did?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Nope, can't think of any sort of Halloween tradition.
Okay.
Why, do you have one?
Well, yes. Well, it's watching. It's an old movie called The Halloween Tree. Have you ever seen that one?
Nope.
Oh man, it was like that was. I think that's what kind of started me in the concepts of like Halloween cartoons. But I mean, so older movie, beautifully animated for the most part. It does have that kind of like Saturday morning cartoon feel to it. But really, it's really surprisingly dark.
Yeah.
Really surprisingly dark, but it's really good. It's really educational too, which is very funny. But then again, Over the Garden Wall, that I like since seeing that, I made it where that's a Halloween tradition. Like watching Over the Garden Wall. It's really good. It's a really good one. But yeah.
Every time you say Over the Garden Wall, I just picture Over the Hedge.
Oh shoot.
Because it's practically the same thing. I mean, like, it sounds the same, like the name, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there is talking animals in both of them. But only one has Christopher Lloyd. Unless I'm wrong, and both have Christopher Lloyd. Do both have Christopher Lloyd?
I don't know.
It'd be funny if they did.
I'm gonna Google that now while we talk.
Yeah. That being said, though, we can go into some stuff I learned about Tasha.
The person Tasha or the book Tashas?
The person. She's a very interesting character. So she was raised by Baba Yaga.
What?
Yep. She started off evil, and they're like, maybe she's just neutral. So what she does is just she creates spells, and what people do with the spells, as she's just learning more information, is kind of like, it's not my fault if someone wants to use the spells that I create for the world for wicked. or is her namesake for Tashas' hideous laughter. One of the spells used by many bards. But yeah, so Tasha's very interesting. We could get into depth about her on another day. So they say that there is I guess they leaked the book. Who knows? I'm not really too interested in it, but they did release the table of content. I yet haven't really dug too deep into what they have for the table of content because I still want some stuff to be a surprise. To get more of just a not a knee-jerk reaction, but a hot take for it.
Yeah.
And then just kind of write down what I feel about it. But with that being said, the three that I do want to talk about, because it's very interesting that they popped up, and I think we've talked about it before, and I've known that there's been players that have been asking about it as well, or at least one of them. So the first one is the Genie Warlock. I'll just take all three, and then if they might have some kind of, they might ring a bell. So there's a Genie Warlock, there's the Fathomless Warlock, and then there's the Rune Knight.
And I know the Genie and the Rune Knight. Don't know Fathomless at all. Can't fathom it. Yeah. Listen, enjoy my bad jokes.
I do. I'll just say that it's karma from earlier today. Yeah, so the Genie Warlock, just that. So of course, how the Warlocks work, we know this, but again, just happily just to explain it or just get everyone in the right mindset of it. So your Warlock class is an individual that calls upon an extraplanar or some entity to get power from them. But they make a pact. Some people say it's a lot like clerics, but there's a little bit flavor sense difference, and I actually think Tashas is going to cause that to be more prevalent, or at least obvious. So Warlocks create pacts with these entities, and that give them powers, and that's where they pull from. So the Genie Warlock is just that. They go and they find a genie, and you can go through all of the Dao, the Marid, the Ifrit. So you can pull from whichever genie you want. That will be your patron.
Yeah.
And so they'll give you whatever features, because some are like genies of water, some are wind, and so forth. So you'll have that class feature for the subclass. But also they give you a vessel. So you get like a genie's lamp or a chest or something that you can go into and just chill out.
I like that because it's like, oh, we're in a dungeon. I'm just gonna bring everyone into the lamp.
Now,
it's like long rest.
I think at first it's gonna be like yourself and I think it's yourself and one other willing creature.
Who's my best friend in this group?
But see, with that one I can't. But I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched it, but like I Dream of Genie.
I think I have.
Old show. That's 5 seconds. So like we can't get stroking. But yeah. So one of the things is that she goes into her lamp and it's this whole giant room and it's kind of vaguely shaped like her bottle and it's really cool. So that I can only think about that for the most part. And I was discussing that. So I was discussing how while I like running like a semi-serious game and try to avoid the memes and everything, that I still can't help catching myself like practicing Robert Williams' voice for the genie from Aladdin. Still practicing it, like, oh no. But I was like, it'd be very funny to end it somehow by saying, regardless of like how serious and dour and maybe stern this genie you're talking to, and then he ends by asking you about all of your friends, and he's like, well, I have friends. Like, well, you ain't never had a friend like me.
I'm telling you right now, if I played it like a warlock, had to say it that way because it had to be said that way.
I mean, because it fits so well. Because you might have friends, but you've never had a patron who's giving you power. And so, if he's your friend, you ain't never had a friend like me. Yeah, I think that's kind of a cool concept. Do you have any other ideas or thoughts on this first one?
Let me look it up so I can, because that was also in UA.
Yes, that's why I think all three that I'm reading, I think all three are in UA. So it's not really the biggest. Oh, yeah, I think all of them actually are in UA, but they're the ones that I know that a few are disclosed to.
Scrolling down. Respite, Sanctuary Vessel. I don't really have any. I don't have an opinion. It looks good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's anything about it that would be like, nah. But I also don't. I'm not sure if it's like one of those things that I would use personally. Just not sure. But other than that, it looks pretty neat. Now, I even wanted to make like a class that's like a rune knight, or a character that's a rune knight. Now, my idea was to get, like, for some reason, like, I needed to, like, I had the option to be a rune knight, and someone else, like, say me and someone else died.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yo, we should be like brother rune knights, or like sibling rune knights in a game. I think that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because you could both like do different runes and have like your own like method. Like one could be defensively just more defensive, and then one could be more like attack, stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't even know when it comes to like trading. Could you technically like? Because I mean, having a sibling, there's times we'll like trade stuff and then use other clothing, so forth. So the concept of these two brothers going, hey, I need a stronger fire spell. Okay, just kind of switching around spells with each other.
Well, that would be pretty cool.
You don't make company sins at the church.
Have them be like twins.
You do it in the streets.
But have the most.
You do it at home.
Have a fatal flaw.
The rest
You know,
is
like
bullshit.
some
You know
twins
it.
could have. This wouldn't be like an actual mechanic. It would just be like a funny thing, a flavor. Yeah. What do you have? One of the brothers played along like that one. Came out with the other brother. Then you got cast.
Like people like just like split from the other brother, or just
He goes to cast it, and it just like shoots out of the other brother as if the other brother cast it.
oh shoot. How do you feel about nat 20s and nat 1s outside of combat?
Out of combat, spelled that way wrong. Out of combat, I think like a nat 20 could go like a little bit farther. Like if it's for roleplay reasons kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would be like you seduce the dragon far. I just think it would be more effective in roleplay than combat, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does.
And in that one, it's like you go to run up and catch with this dude to try and talk with him, but before you even get there, you fall flat on your face. And you're beside him, just like, just completely almost shut it down. It's like if they roll in that one, it's like you're gonna have to wait a while before you try that again.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you ever like punish with nat ones in combat? Because I know there's times where the person will swing and they'll hit a nat one and then their sword breaks and they drop their weapon or something like that, or they're just like, nah, you just miss.
Honestly, depends on what they're trying to do. If they roll in that one on something really risky to begin with, it's like, bruh, something bad's gonna happen. But if it's just like, I'm holding it with two hands, I'm gonna two-hand swing it, then it's like, you just miss really bad. He laughs at you. They roll a nat 20. You hit really good. He's no longer laughing.
Yeah, I mean, not 20, and then because there's sometimes where it's just like, I know the hit points are really low already for somebody, and they roll in that 20. That's like they just have to roll, like just roll high enough that makes sense for the damage to be done, kind of thing. It's like the persons do, like whatever the target is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's down to, because I don't think I've ever gone down to an enemy. Oh no, I think like randomly rare where you've like chipped away and the things have been like one hit point and still like running around swinging like they're just woke up kind of thing, well rested. So it kind of reflects. But yeah, the things like 5 you're rolling, like the thing has 5 hit points and it's been whittled, so that's you guys in this thing. Thinking about the Rune Knight, I'm very interested in the Rune Knight because even Jeremy Crawford was talking about it, where he's just like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a fighter straight out of the bat, like I'm a noble fighter knight kind of thing, but like what happens if it's a guy who's really smart and he just wants to collect these runes and use them as weapons kind of thing. And so that concept of like, well, yes, I'm a fighter, but I'm a collegiate fighter, or you know what I mean, I'm a scholarly fighter, and I'm going to go and look up these runes and keep finding them, and each time I find them, then it means something for my blade, or so forth.
They're the number cruncher fighter.
Well, I mean, yes and no.
You haven't seen like My Hero Academia, I don't think.
Not a lot of episodes.
So I legit picture that type of fighter as Deku, like the main character. Because he's very strong, obviously, and he's a fighter, but he, all his life, because he didn't have a quirk in the beginning, like all the way up to like when he got it, all he did was watch other heroes and take notes. So now when he uses his quirks, he's like, he has an advantage, I would say, at figuring out how to use it to their like potential. Like when you say like a scholarly fighter, I just picture a dude that's always taking notes, not really practicing to get like super strength, but practicing to get like items and like maybe less on the strength side, but more on like the how you move kind of side, which I think is interesting.
Like, so, like, two characters they're going to both play off of. So, one character would be, like, say, John Constantine. And where he has this whole, like, while I would say that John Constantine plays more, of course, like a warlock or sorcerer kind of thing, or even wizard. But shift gears to even, like, John Constantine or even Doctor Strange. So, have you ever seen the Keanu Reeves Constantine movie?
No.
Okay. I always say I forget that I'm the cinephile, but it's in the trailer, so it's not a big spoiler, but it shows him with tattoos on his forearms, and when he slams the tattoos together, it causes a whole new glyph to be there, and it has a different purpose. And so, like, same aspects of like Doctor Strange, who has these different names for each spell. Well, again, spells can either fall into wizard, but just the concept where he has this one staff or one rod, but imbued with something or some type of magic from someone else. Or even Hellboy. Like Hellboy has a utility belt, and he has things hanging off of his utility belt, and they're just different like trinkets and things like that. And the very interesting thing about the Rune Knight, he was originally, I think he was a sorcerer. I think it was like a giant kind sorcerer. The ideas of like growing big, and just that concept of like you're in a pinch and you're basically a Swiss Army knife, but yet you're also like a encyclopedia where you're just like, we need this, and my sword now has the description of storm giants and what it does, kind of thing. I think that's really cool flair. And just
I like the idea of like the way they're getting these runes from the giants.
Yeah,
I really enjoy that aspect of it. It's like, where'd you get these? It's like, oh, I saw this giant dude, and he was carving it on something. I thought it looked cool.
Because that's the concept where, I mean, again, the world that my campaign is in kind of sits as a parallel to the actual D&D continuity, but there's stuff in there that is completely right. But one of the biggest things is that I think I've said it in passing before, that a lot of people who are either who have like noble positions, kings and so forth.
Yeah.
It's theorized that they have blood, or like in legend they say they have blood of giants or blood of dragons. It's like one of the prominent aspects of why they say that people are like kings, like, oh, they have the blood of giants in them, or they have the blood of dragons in them. Or these two kingdoms are fighting because one has ancestry in the dragons and one has ancestry in the giants. So I mean, hint, if you start digging, you'll actually find some really interesting lore in there. But yeah, that's one of the through lines of that concept, because there's like this constant thing where it's kind of good because it's like what only like the dragonborn and sorcerers get the benefits of the magic that is dragons, but not too many people get the benefits that are giants. These were entities that fought against the dragons, so you think that both of them would have, that magical like foothold.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see what that looks like on the paper. Just get a feel of it.
What's the Fathomless Warlock? What's that?
Perfect. So the Fathomless, so just like your other Warlock, where you're dealing with the genie, so Fathomless, you're dealing with these entities that live like deep in the dark, blind, like depths of the ocean. Or maybe they live out in space and they float inside this primordial liquid, but they have like flair that is like of the ocean. So the Warlock themselves kind of look like fishmen. They're green and they have like maybe like think of like Davy Jones' crew from like Pirates of the Caribbean. So kind of that aspects maybe, but just things where it's just like, well, he might have, like, I haven't read too much into it, just the ideas of just what seems interesting for that part, but yeah, just some aspects that might be a little oceanic to say the least.
What is there a Warlock like subclass that gives Warlocks 4 arms and hisses at people?
As I knew, like, it's funny because I kept thinking in the back of my mind. And so for those who definitely are lost, so V is a Warlock that the Justifier's Bold, the party in my game, ran into, who was just he was odd, pale skin, 4 arms. He wore a cloak that was tenebrous. You couldn't see the face, but he would glide across the ground versus walking. And then Nazir here.
For some reason I pictured him walking backwards, like gliding backwards through the crowd. Like, I don't know why.
there was a time where that'd be kind of interesting because they said like with his forearms, and when he finally was quelled by the warlock of the party, he did kind of glide backwards, and glide and turn and glide away. I think Noah said he was like a 3-point turn. But yes, so I mean he's technically a warlock of my own dealings of what that could be. But again, there are like the deep ones and the warlocks of the otherworldly warlocks. So what that might look like, the Lovecraftian side of the house. So
I want to touch on that again, like that warlock encounter, because it goes like this. Me and the warlock, like our warlock, I'll say Fjord. Me and Fjord are just like scouting out the area, and I'm like, hey, that guy's weird, we should go talk to him or something like that. And he's like, yeah, just don't cause a scene, I don't think he's like a big deal. And then I put my hand on his shoulder and he hisses at me and his conversation ensues. Then Fjord comes up and is like, breaks up the conversation, guy leaves. And I'm like, so what do we do? And Fjord, who was against making a scene or anything, goes, what do you mean, what do we do? He just fucking hissed at you. Like that's the quote. That's the quote. And I'm just like, so we follow him? It's like, of course we follow him. What else are we gonna do?
He hissed at you.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a very interesting encounter, and I think that encounter, while I had everything set for who he was, it was just a concept of, I don't know, like I can't really, because I have to go back to the notes. I don't feel like it was, like I had where he was, how it's set, that's fine, but it's more of just like what went down was not really planned. Of course, that's how it is, kind of thing. Because he did ultimately end up on the same ship with you, and so technically, when you broke into his inn,
shit, that's right. That was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, so you broke into his inn.
Wait,
while he.
That was the thing before he got on the ship, wasn't it?
Yep.
Dang it, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I mean that same concept. If he's enough to pique an interest, but he is banal enough to not really have to be a center point. He is just another character that exists in the world. But so
listen, I really wanted whatever was in that box. I'm telling you right now.
I think it was jewelry.
Oh, there was nothing really special?
I didn't say that. I just said it was jewelry.
He didn't look too happy. He sent shadows after me, and I ended up killing them before, I realized that they could be cool in some way.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of his pact, whatever his pact is.
Oh. Listen, Nazir's had a lot of strange, interactions with warlocks. Fjord sacrificed a mirror with one of Nazir's scales on it. Saw some weird vision stuff. Want to see it again. Same thing happened with him. Nazir threw a scale and his offerings to his patron or something. And
that's the thing though. Like you realize that mirror scape that you're looking at was actual Fjord's eye, right?
Nope.
Yeah, like you were basically standing on Fjord's eye.
I did not in any way put that together.
Like if you ever go back to the audio, because I said it the first time, but then the second time as well, just how it looks like a giant fissure or a crater, a canyon, and that there are these two pink walls on both sides, and there's giant black spires that stretch off of them. So, as it slowly closes, it causes darkness, and then it becomes Fjord's reflection.
Some of these details were probably lost on me by the fact that at that point in time, you were a little bit farther away from me and on the side of my bad ear. So
possibly.
Yes, because I didn't even remember like the pink eye thing. Pink eye.
Yeah, I think
And
I think the first time was that, and then during when I think this is in Crown. So Crown, for all those in my game, is almost like Venice. Beautiful city, rivers and so forth, canals. When you're because right before you went to the theater, the movie theater with him to be a mime, he was just like, yeah, I sacrificed the mirror and nothing happened. I saw nothing. And I was like, oh, nothing. No, you saw this. And then you're like, what? And then, so the Fiora's player's like really quiet and it's like, what, are you telling me this now? You never told me this happened?
I remember me going, I need to find Fior, and then for some reason I couldn't find him, so I just stopped. Because I remember in game my character was in like the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, what is going on? He's like having a seizure or something.
Which I always love. I love the concept of presumable panic for players in a way. Like, even though there's like nothing truly going on, as in I'm not planning to do anything devious or anything like that, but it's just like there's a panic, like, uh-oh, what's this about? And I'm trying to figure it out. It's always fun too. But yes, but Fathomless, what's very interesting, I know like your love of like the Kraken and like the ocean and so forth. So I think the Fathomless, because that's the thing about like the subclasses, that no one says that subclasses have to only be for your players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always will go back to the Gloomstalker because I think that Ranger is still a great class. Just the concepts of, again, Bane from The Dark Knight Rises, where you might have dark vision, but he was born in the darkness, and so you literally think the darkness is your ally, and this man uses, or man or woman, whatever, uses this like ability that he disappears. So they disappear in darkness. So if you have like dark vision, he's invisible to you. So now you're just dealing with this ranger running around. I think once they attack you, possibly, or at least somehow make their presence known with like insight perception to figure out if there's someone else in the room. But yeah, just that concept of just kind of looking, like being in the room full of drow air and just the creatures of the Underdark who are made to be optimal, dangerous, and dark with their dark vision. Some have blind sense too, but yeah, just that concept, just like, oh, you guys think that you're gonna get me? Lights out, and he's gone. So he can either be Batman as well, but just that idea, just being boop. Was it Rorschach from Watchmen? You think that I'm locked in here with you? No, you're locked in here with me. Just that concept, I think would be great. But yeah, but there's ton. Was it 22 subclasses? Probably won't go into any more of Tashas unless it's something like crazy,
like off the wall, like this needs to be said.
Exactly, because I still like things to be kind of hush about it
until the session, or like this podcast with, like when we have the books in our hands.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because let's be honest, even though it's leaked, like supposedly, we don't know if that's the real thing.
Exactly, that's true too. That's very true.
So
I think that's why, like, it should have been Xanathar's. So yeah, Xanathar's. I was excited when that one came out too. Because it did have Gloomstalker in it, but it also had the Cape of Bellowing.
Yeah.
And Chris Perkins, who I think is one of the best DMs when it comes to the circuit of D&D games kind of thing. Really, like, if you never watched Acquisition Incorporated, then you're doing yourself a disservice. He like phenomenal DM. But he says that I think one weekend that like at a barbecue, he just started like writing down like different like magical items, and some of the magical items aren't like extreme and amazing. Well, I mean, Cloak of Bellowing, Artorias just has that on.
Really?
So, I mean, yeah. So Artorias is wearing the Cloak of Bellowing, so all the time his cape blows in an unfelt wind, like it's just constantly blowing, and he can make it blow fast, heroically, or just kind of slowly like move.
I was never told that he had such a cape.
You were told that, sir.
Okay. Maybe I was. But now I'm gonna have to like
take it from
heist it away from him. Yeah, this is gonna be like a whole scheme. It's gonna involve like me, like Mission Impossible, like lining down into his room from the ceiling.
I don't know, but he's now an Oathbreaker, so.
Well, you know what? He can break a few more oaths.
Oaths, you mean bones. Bones, you mean Dragonborn bones.
Nah. I beat him up, don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, he ain't watching this. He won't hear this.
No, he won't.
He's not in the chat. He won't hear it.
That's fun. If he's just like, I'm gonna tune in now. What? How dare
With
you?
all those Frozen jokes, Josh is probably gonna tell him.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, it's gonna happen. You know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna look Artorias or Cody straight in the eye at the table. I'm gonna say, it's time to Jones. And be like, I challenge you to a children's card game.
So basically that was like a shout out to Josh though. So it was like a yo to Josh.
Nah.
Because if that's the case, then it literally is a froyo.
I know he heard that.
Loses all followers.
That might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, I'll be honest.
You gotta find a hill to die on, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Is it a good hill? Does it have plants?
Thinking of hill giants. But yeah, so I mean, did you want to go into detail about what you did? Thinking of like, because I went from giants, so it's not just a complete like random jump, but it was from hill to hill giants to other giants. Exactly what the menace you set upon your party?
Yeah, I can go into detail on that. Because it's already dead. So, the giant... Actually, I don't think the players know this. I don't think I ever told them the name of the enemy.
Oh.
Like the guy who was commanding the zombie giant. Josh, can you confirm if I told you in the chat or told anyone? I'll look for the answer in a minute. Either way, the whole scenario was driven by the fact that I was challenged to make a horror like event that was scarier than Scary Game Night. So I had a week from Scary Game Night to D&D night to rewrite that whole encounter and make it like full on like hard and potentially scary. With that, I was like, what is something that could be hard? So I was like, a giant would be good. I'm going to give him to this necromancer. So in my campaign, they're fighting against these heroes that are being brought back to life. And by the end of the campaign, if they haven't stopped, like whatever heroes they haven't stopped, it's going to be a huge battle by the end of the campaign with all the heroes that are still alive and the heroes that have been revived via artifacts that they have failed to claim. before like the big bad evil guy did. This particular necromancer is a spin-off of the Arthurian like legend Mordred. I told you this, but instead of his name being Mordred, his name is Mordred. And while he is technically a druid, he gave up that life to be a necromancer. And he has a orb that is called the Orb of Dread, and it's a DC 25 wisdom saving throw, or else you see like horrible visions of like any loved ones or like friends, family, anything. They could be dead, just like constant visions of this. And it also causes ash to rain from the sky. And these visions come to life into like a physical manifestation via the ash. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It sounds cool.
So like the characters will be looking around and they're like, why is it snowing? They touch the ash and they're like, this isn't snow. And then once they hear like a tingling of a bell, if they fail the saving throw, the ash that's been like fluttering to the ground swirls up into these manifestations of like fears that they had. I think it was pretty good. Then one character broke the barrier that had kept this little black market area done. Giant came in, scared the crap out of them, I would say, in a way. The very first attack, again, was a lightning strike, and they didn't understand that this is a storm giant. They understood that after the lightning came, but it was a zombie storm giant. Not only that, the zombie storm giant was wearing animated armor. So if I felt for whatever reason the encounter was too easy, the armor would come off and become its own entity. That's what that was for. As well as to like raise the giant's AC in general. But not only that, basically they had to destroy the armor to get to the giant. So 200 hit points was the armor. Once they broke the armor, it fell to the ground and spiders came out of it, like giant ones.
Yeah.
And they're attacking like all the other black market people in this area because they're easy prey right now because they're under the influence of the orb and they're like all on the ground and everything. And so once that happened, they had to kill the giant. They decided to kill Mordred first because Mordred, he's a wizard. He had like 70 hit points and an AC of 14. Nothing special, but the giant wouldn't be destroyed even if Mordred was killed.
Okay.
In fact, it made it harder. If they killed Mordred before him, it sent the giant into like a barbarian-esque rage. So all physical damage was halved. And so that happened. Then the giant eventually dies. Of course, you know, everything does. And and then the hands of the giant come off as crawling claws, giant ones. And they have these fire ball gems embedded in like the palms. So once they go below half hit points, they just explode in a fireball.
Wow.
And yeah, no one died. They can thank Trey for that. Trey is the bard, and he has armor that makes him vulnerable to lightning. Because it scared them when I hit them with that first lightning bolt. They didn't know how much damage a storm giant's lightning was. and Noah could just barely see the giant pile of D8s that I picked up. And his face tells it all. Because everyone looked at him and was like, well, why are you making that face? They're like, you can't see what I'm seeing. And I roll it, and Josh is like, it's 54 damage. So, yeah.
I will say that I love that concept of giving, like, I would say rewarding items with a lot of, like, a large dice pool. Like Fior getting his spear imbued with lightning from a storm giant. And this one, and the thing that happened, I think, right before you joined the party, or the game, it was that one was a delayed blast, like a bomb, basically, with the delayed blast embedded into it. And the other one, I can't think of the other blast that was in there. That was a large amount of dice, too. I think as a DM, it's fun to just give these things and see what happens, I think.
Yeah. There are a few characters in my campaign that are unknowingly holding nukes that I'm not going to tell them who is, so that they can contemplate who is holding a nuke.
Try to pick their pockets.
Yeah.
Well, you don't, Grockmore, your bard, is the only, like, pocket picker, right?
What do you mean by that?
Because, like, so bards, there people might be like, what? But see, like, bards do have like a through line when it comes to sleight of hands. So I know, like, I've had some people that will play bards like a musical thief. So
Grockmore never does that.
Hopefully I didn't give them an idea to start stealing. Yeah, like they'll have like sleight of hands, like the idea of like, could I just like play music or sing a song, and as I'm singing a song, I'm like reaching around and picking off pearls and taking things from people's pockets because they're enchanted by my song, kind of thing. But so you have some that play like that. Of course, you have like the roguish charm bard who just flirts and so forth. But
Grockmore's RP'd as if he was like dropped on the head like 40 times as a baby from a cliff. So no, I don't think that would happen. I was actually informed at the table. Everyone was like, yeah, we all have second characters in case we die.
Huh.
And Trey was like, yeah, I'm gonna have a character named Grickmon, and he's gonna be raised by orcs, and he's a human, and he's very smart.
That's fun.
So Grockmore is an orc raised by humans, and he's very dumb. So it's like the complete opposite of his character, like they parent swapped or something.
That is, the man's a visionary. He even breaks up, like he's breaking up type. So the idea of like the orc are uncivilized tribes, but in this case, it's the humans that didn't teach him that much.
Yeah.
Well,
the orcs in that, like, wherever he's from are just insanely smart. Like the ogres in Baldur's Gate, like the one that was like eloquent or whatever. Something that eloquent.
I love it where I was just like, he's being really smart for an ogre. It's like the way he speaks, and then he actually then addresses the fact that he speaks differently. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay, cool. They're not just gonna skip over this.
Yeah, because it's funny. There's a term for people who ever watched the Green Arrow show or the Arrow. So their writing, they actually had some really typed writing. I do too, but like, so they have really typed writing at times, and so Robert would watch the show and he would like try to like nitpick something and like point out a plot hole, and right as he points it out, the characters would address it or something would happen and it would be immediately answered, and just kind of like, okay. Like it would stop him from doing it where he usually does in other shows. And so it became a thing called Arrowed, Just like it's basically green arrows on a ledge, and he shoots an arrow to plug in that plot hole for Robert. Just shoots him down. And so basically, I got arrowed. Like the minute I was like, "But why?" Okay, well, I accept it. As long as there's an answer, yeah, it's fine by me.
But yeah, Josh, I'm 100%. I'm talking like he's in the chat right now. So if you're at your computer listening to this at this moment, I'm 100% expecting you to go back to the D&D table and be like, Jacob said at least one of us has a nuke. Let's try and figure out who it is. Because I guarantee you're not going to figure out who it is.
Now, are you including both players and NPCs, or just players?
Just players.
Okay. So they're just going to start throwing items from their bags at each other?
Yeah. It's going to be amazing. He said, Roger. It's going to be fun to watch you accidentally nuke yourself. Alright. Don't know if we said that Cyberpunk 2077 was delayed by a little bit. I'm not sure if we did say that. Could have.
I think 2 ago it was mentioned that 2077 was going to be delayed. Which is it's kind of sad, but at the same time, so it's kind of disappointing. It's kind of disappointing, but it's also expected, and it's also hopeful. You know what I mean? Like, you have these unpolished games, they'll come out and then they immediately have to patch to fix something the poor developers just couldn't do, you know?
Yeah.
And then just like Code Red, wait, is that Project Red? Okay. So Project Red, just the concept of just Mountain Dew. Just their track record with The Witcher, they kind of get a bit of like a pass to some degree. And you're kind of hoping that is them just kind of like sharpening things and making things better for a player experience. So, but I think it's kind of going down to like, we've waited so long for 2077 that we can wait a little longer. And it's by proof of concept, it's not going to be a Duke Nukem situation.
Duke Nukem.
It would be very interesting if John Cena played Duke Nukem.
On another note, do you want to tell everyone how you somehow in the wilds of North Carolina found Purple Heart?
Went to the thing called a Foundry in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And there was just a bunch of piles of it. I wish it was in the wild. Like, imagine me stumbling across piles of just Purple Heart. And so, for those who aren't into the botany side of the house, Purple Heart, I guess arbor tree, is that a word? So Purple Heart, a lot of it comes from Mexico, South America, but a lot of the Purple Heart sent to us is from Mexico, or at least a Mexican species. But it's just that it's this burgundy to just this beautiful purple color of wood, and then its name is basically just that. So cutting the tree down, going into it, so the inner rings, the most tight part of that is purple. Gorgeous wood. But yeah, so happened to go and look around and found some, immediately took pictures and sent them to Jacob, and just going, look what I found.
And I immediately responded with, I want.
Well, I think it was, the F word, God, I want. I think it was that. There were some other, but yeah, so bought some Purple Heart, and the saga of us building the table while it's near its end this 8 by 7.8 table. I was like, you know what? Let's put some Purple Heart in this thing because why not?
Oh yeah. Off topic, but I am going to discuss the table with you after the podcast.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. That's all I have to say on that.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so I don't know. We can't really. Is there a way for us to display the table once it's done on the PiP?
Yeah.
Okay.
The same way I'm displaying the DM screen every week.
Ah, perfect. So maybe just kind of have it. Well, is it playing?
B-roll.
Is it playing during, or is it just playing before we get on?
No, it's playing during. It's like full on like repeat and B-roll.
Wonderful.
See, all I have to do is make like a video file of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then OBS will actually just keep replaying it if I set it to.
I have a very interesting idea for B-roll. We'll also talk about that after the podcast. The podcast. There you go. Yes, but it's now 11:30. Was there anything else you needed to address before we jump to our last segment?
There's Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay. Is that the remake of Red and Blue? Done better? Not done better. Updated?
No,
Which one is Ruby Sapphire?
it's Hoenn. It's the Hoenn region. Ruby and Sapphire are Hoenn. Red and Blue are Kanto.
Ah, so okay.
Alrighty, if you wanna move on, we can.
Absolutely. So for those keeping track, we're moving on to the last segment we do, which is what are you watching, playing, reading, listening to? So, Wilka, what are you doing here?
Absolutely nothing.
And thanks for watching, guys.
Read the latest chapter of My Hero Academia. That was pretty good. Watching, kind of want to watch the Underworld movies because I think I've seen them before. Unsure. Speaking of Arrow, I actually want to watch like the final few seasons of Arrow that came out because I haven't watched them yet. I like stopped for a while to have like a backlog, so
Yeah.
I want to watch that. I want to watch The Punisher. These are like on my list of things to watch, like probably start in the next few days. So I'm gonna count those because other than those, I haven't really watched anything other than like Worm Life with Josh and just random YouTube videos.
Explain Worm Life.
Company named Wormwood, gaming for D&D and other tabletop games. They run a wood shop in Massachusetts. To sort of give a transparency to their job, they have this cool YouTube series named Worm Life, and it sort of is just like a behind the scenes of how everything gets done, and they've addressed it in the show. Like the CEO is like, I don't like it when you have good episodes, because when you have good episodes, that means something went wrong. And they have like 2 episodes a week at the moment, so.
And that would you say that one was the first introduction to actually Purple Heart?
Was. It comes back around.
How does that cutting Purple Heart work for you?
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Did I explain to you how hard it was?
Yeah, the hard, but I've told you, but the concept of I was reading about Purple Heart and there's a neoflavonoid that's in Purple Heart that can be like an irritator or irritant when it comes to like you're like breathing it in or getting on your skin. And I just kind of read it and go, huh, and just forget all about it. Bring Jacob his slab of Purple Heart, his plank, and like, okay, fine. And then the minute you're just like, yeah, it's hard to breathe and irritates my skin, I was like, oh wait, there's something I
It's
forgot.
funny. You said that. Literally, I worked all day yesterday to finish that project, got it done, wrapped it up, then called you, and you were like, I say this to you, and you're like, oh yeah, and I'm like, well, thanks a lot.
Like, it was literally just like, that's what, because like I read it, there's like, time to go to sleep. That will never come up again, even though I have some.
You know, that was funny. Wouldn't fit in like the handsaw miter box, but it's strong enough to where like if I got the two cuts close, I was able to just punch it out. Pretty good.
Tough wood, which is good.
Yeah, they describe it as almost unbreakable.
Because the piece that I have, like, tempted to turn it into a wood slab, just like a cutting board. It's already like cutting board. It's just like this thick piece of heavy wood. It's very funny.
Were taunting someone that had a cutting board version of it.
Oh. But yeah, like it'd be very interesting, that concept. But no, I have other ideas for it, obviously. But was that all of what you are
Nope.
watching play? What are you playing?
Well, playing 7 Days to Die in theory.
In theory.
In theory, because I get on 7 Days to Die and I start to play, and then I get bored, so I go do something else while I'm in the game. Like, while I like the game, I'm just haven't been that into it this weekend.
Now, are all of you still playing, was it Phantasmophobia?
Phasmophobia. They had a Halloween update. I'm personally waiting for there to be like a bigger update to it, like mechanics wise. I played it with Zach. I'll play it with Zach. But if we all try to play it without him, I don't really want to play it.
Gotcha.
Zach makes it fun.
Gotcha.
No matter what. But listening to, this is what I was going to say earlier. For some reason, Saturday I was just like, country music. So I was listening to a lot of like Darius Rucker, Morgan Wallen, Brantley Gilbert, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if this counts as country music, but I found a band named like The Dead South or something. Have you heard of them?
I don't think so. What's like one of their most prominent singles?
I don't know. I found one song that I really liked. I listened to it before I called you for the show. Let me see if I can find the title. It should just be right here in my history. So it's The Dead South, and the one that I heard, it has 211 million views, and their other videos only have like maybe 10 million. So I would say that this is the one.
Yeah.
It says, "In hell, I'll be in good company." So after the show, I'll get you to listen to that. Don't know why. Just decided to. I was like, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. How about you?
So watching, Creep Show. I decided to go and just try the 7 days and see how I like Shudder. And so Creep Show is a show based off of was it 1970s and 1980s? So it's basically the same vein as the Tales from the Crypt, more inspired by the comic books versus the movie. And so, because this predates the show on HBO, so there. What I love about it, one, other than it being horror, is two, that it's anthology. So you get two stories, one episode, which I love. And yeah, so you have it where they're really well character driven, which I mean that's kind of the monster, excuse the pun of it, is that, but they find the actors that are recognizable. A lot of the actors are recognizable in the show, and then just whatever this episode is. So it's really good. So far, I really like it. There's some really cleverly done episodes. It's like, not to give one away, but one is about a haunted dollhouse, and they do it in such a way that you're fearing for the lives of toys. If that makes sense.
What?
Yeah, exactly. Even though like the story's about a little girl playing with her dollhouse in a way, like it's really well done, really well done. I think that is like that might be the second episode, I think, or it's first or second episode, but it's a good watch. So I'm still watching those. I started that like Halloween, I think maybe it's Halloween Day. I have to check. I have to make sure, because there's the problem with those like trial things, they get away from you quickly.
Yeah.
Which is like, again, how they do it, but
somehow I have 60 days of free Amazon Prime, so I'm going to say it's all because of Twitch, because that's how I got 30 days first.
Okay.
Like, I linked it with my Twitch account, and it was like, you get to subscribe to a person for free this month, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna subscribe to Wormwood. And then, literally, while talking to you right now on the PiP, it was like, you want another 30 days? And I was like, yeah. It's like, here you go. I was like, cool.
That's how they get you. But yeah, so that's really, I think most of the part, that's what I'm watching. I know there was another show, but again, I can't even think about what I was watching on that one. And then just, again, well, I mean, technically, this is after, but during the week, of course, a lot of horror movies and so forth. Me gusta when it comes to horror movies. Me gusta. And then playing, I'm still on that Guardian's Tale life. What's really interesting about that game is that they do events, like not seasonal, but like monthly, weekly events. And so they'll give you like 16 days, more or less, and then you'll do different events. Like there was like a Halloween episode or Halloween event, so everything changed over to like Halloween. And so I'm very, very sure they're going to do it for Christmas when December rolls around. I even though I don't celebrate Christmas, I do think that Thanksgiving should have its shine. And this is the day in the sun. But yeah, so it's really cool. They'll give you like new heroes, unique skins, different events in that way, rewards and whatnot. So it's cool. I haven't really jumped onto any other games. I think that we need to finish playing some Baldur's Gate.
We do.
Definitely some Baldur's Gate, because that, again, it's really fun. I do enjoy the dice
system. In the church.
Yeah,
You do it in the streets.
we ended up killing a dog in Baldur's Gate. I feel so bad. The dog almost killed us. So it's
so it's kind of like he was tit for tat. Like he almost killed us. So it was literally us surviving. That was a really weird playthrough, because you try to talk to one of the party members. Granted, she's like a gift Yankee, so she's technically evil, but she's still your party member. And then they're just like, leave me alone. And he's like, okay. And then she just started attacking, and just the nonsense of trying to like calm everything down, and then just having to try to knock her out, and just getting like terrible rolls and like 1 to 2 hit points off. Because that's the thing, it's like, why aren't you hitting her harder? But I guess they might say, well, you're not proficient in it, so you're not gonna really do that much damage. But
well, you're actually doing your base melee damage when you do that. We were just rolling bad.
Okay, because it was like 1, 2, like, ooh, we got a 2, and finally knocking her unconscious. And that the weird thing is that they was like, let's just take her stuff so she's not like lethal. And then it strips the character down to just like a weird like bikini thing. And then the following day she's just friendly again, still wearing the like underwear. It's like, that's okay. All right. Okay, I guess they forget that easy. It's a weird fight. But yeah, then the dog was just kind of like, hey, little guy. And it didn't end well.
It did not. It absolutely did not end well.
It's like I didn't want to kill the Doge. I wanted the Doge to be my friend. Do you think that the potion of animal speech would have worked on the owlbear?
It does. It does. I actually saw that get worked out.
All we did was accidentally kill it. Well, all you did is kill an owlbear baby. And
I killed the owlbear too, dude. Owlbear dead.
Oh, I killed the owlbear, but it was like the owlbear cub's like, yeah, I'm gonna train this, and then when you cast fear, it ran out of your reach, so attack of opportunity just dropped it like, that's not how you train an owlbear. Worst spin-off of How to Train Your Dragon. It has to be like an animated short of How to Train Your Owlbear. It's just like hit, doom, roll credits. Dark. I don't know how well that would fly with DreamWorks though. But reading, I'm actually thinking about getting into the Silmarillion. I think I'm going to start reading the Silmarillion.
Reading or listening to?
Reading. There's a certain few books that I love reading. Like I Am Legend, love it. I love that book. Like I've read it so many times. It's just a good read. Let's see. So I Am Legend I read from cover to cover, and on top of that, there's short stories in it by Richard Matheson, who is a phenomenal author. That man, like, I never knew that I was a fan of Richard Matheson until I found out who he was. So, one of my favorite Robin Williams movies is What Dreams May Come. And that one is his. And then one of my favorite horror movies and / Kevin Bacon movies is Stir of Echoes, which is him. One of my favorite, like, I love to cite it and just constantly like quote from it, but my favorite Twilight Zone is it Terror at 20,000 feet or A Nightmare? I think it's Terror at 20,000 feet. But it has William Shatner in it, the famous, there's a gremlin on the wing, there's something on the wing kind of thing. But that's, he wrote that, just constantly, just all these different things that he wrote, and I'm just like in love with, and yeah, there's tons of it. Like this man has his art, his pen in so many different aspects of cinema and other books and movies and TV shows and so forth. So, but yeah, Richard Matheson. But the book that he has it's I Am Legend. When the Will Smith one came out, and then they just gave other stories to it. And yeah, so like that book, I remember when I first purchased it, Barnes and Noble, and like it's funny because it's like Barnes and Noble. My nephew was like buying a bunch of Naruto manga, and then got back home. I think I bought like new video games, and I just sat on the bed just reading it. And he was like, "Hey, he's like," and that's the thing. He was more excited about playing video games, even though he has brand new Naruto manga that he's never read, and I'm just like zoned into it. But yeah, so anything Richard Matheson is good. It's very funny because of I Am Legend, because it takes place in Compton, and just the idea of Compton being a suburb of just like this beautiful, like idealistic kind of thing of suburbs. But I mean, Compton's still beautiful, but still. But yeah, but so I Am Legend, American Gods, which is phenomenal. Good Omens, Infernal. I want to say Infernal City, and then there's another few, but there's ones that I've read multiple times, and there's few and far between when it comes to actual novels. But so I don't know. It just depends. I love coffee table books, but I'll say the Silmarillion would be very interesting to read. And then getting to go last weekend, getting to go to a Barnes and Noble, and how much I missed them. Because man,
Yeah, you were you texting me all this stuff. I'm like, quit showing off. I'm like, you find Purple Heart, you find a Barnes and Noble. Like, get out of here. Just leave. You've lost friendship privileges.
Oh, but yeah, so definitely want to.
Wood burner is tags.
Oh, you gonna keep it?
No, I'm not.
No. But so yeah, so Silmarillion. Again, at Barnes and Nobles, they're also like a pocket Hobbit book. I think my angle is that I need to have just a big library, and just I think that's not the angle, but that is when it comes to book purchases, it's just have a library. And just start myself with books, because it's very funny because talking to like Khaled probably, I'd say maybe 20 years ago, let's play that game, I wouldn't be considered like a book person. I'm like, no, I don't really like books. I don't really read that much, but not paying attention, then I'm surrounded by books, and I actually really love books and libraries. Like, that's it. If I can get a room, a library, my personal library, to smell like a library, that is a lifetime achievement, I think. But yeah. But then, I think lastly, I am still listening to Horror Babble. Great YouTube channel. British gentleman. He does a really good American accent when he needs to. And just listening to some of their stories. I'm trying to make more reviews. There's a small cat. But yeah, so just that concept. I actually wanted to listen to Pet Sematary again. That was a really good listen.
I've heard that it's good. I haven't heard it.
There's things I respect about the remake. They did some things really good, and they did some things really coming off of it. Also talks about kind of bringing that back to that's a spoiler alert. Yeah, some ambient horror movie or people that so it's now 11:52. Is there anything that anyone had any questions or comments in the chat?
Yeah, Louise is in the comments. I have a question for you. Is this wood burner, like the metal on it, supposed to change colors?
As in, it galvanizes, like what you see on like aircraft and exhaust.
Yeah.
Like it turns from like black to bluish or red and orange kind of colors.
Yeah, so like it's brown, and then the tips of it are like blue, and yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, because I was looking at it and I was like, I'm pretty sure he gave these to me while they were silver.
Yeah. Like, it's very funny because you watch people who do like miniature painting.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, this is exhaust, especially like Warhammer. And so they'll paint like the bolt casters like that. And so they'll just paint it. It's like beautiful. Always loved it. So it's funny because I always loved that look when I was little, way little. In Germany, looking at like tailpipes and like rigs with a giant like side exhaust on them, and just confused about the fact that why is it blue and purple and like a rainbow on it. So, yeah,
like the color of my dice and swords, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. That galvanizing look to it. Eat treat. But yeah. Nope, it's fine. That's what it does. Did you put it at a certain temperature, or was it just kind of like when hot and burn wood used?
went hot and I looked at the dial and I was like, I'm gonna start on low, and low did almost nothing to the Purple Heart, and I was like, I'm gonna try it max out.
Did you add a finish to it, or is this kind of still just?
There's no finish.
Okay.
It got finished without a finish.
Acceptable. Did you at least take pictures?
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Were you trying to set me up to say I didn't?
No. I was just
Because I
wondering.
told you last night I didn't.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Oh, you were like, you wrapped it so fast you didn't even take pictures. What'd you make? And I just dodged the question.
Wait, so will we ever know what you made, or is it kind of like a weird secret?
You'll know what I made. I'll tell you what I made.
Okay. So,
I'm not gonna say. Yeah.
That's fine.
I mean, maybe I made Pandora's box.
Ooh.
That's a reference to something you said last night.
Oh. I don't remember.
Yeah, like I was just for the chat to know, because I feel like it's funny. You can randomly like call Kyle in the middle of the night, and he'll be like wide awake. But then you'll just start doing something, and you'll be in the middle of a actual conversation. You'll be like, yeah, and then like you'll say something for like maybe 2 minutes, and you're like, how's this? And no response, and you just hear snoring in the background.
Nice.
You just pass out, dude.
Sometimes you just have to turn the lights on or off. Other times you have to dim them. There was a person I used to talk to, and she would like, so you wouldn't even know that she falls asleep. She would literally just talk to you still, but the conversation would turn into like strange, like, so like there's one where we're talking about whatever, but then she's like, did you get the cookies? I'm like, cookies? Like, yeah, you have to get cookies for this party. I'm like, what is she talking about? And had to figure out like, oh, she's now in this weird like dream awake state, and like there are times where like she's upset at me in the dream at something, and I have to now like apologize there, but then she doesn't remember when she's awake. It's like, what are you talking about? I was like, we had this whole conversation. And like sometimes it's like, I told you you have to pick the kids up. We don't have kids. It's like, yeah, I told you have to pick the kids up because I have a meeting. And just this long, like, okay, I'm sorry, dear. Yeah. Okay. Want me to go grocery shopping? No, when I get off, we'll go grocery shopping together. Yeah. Like whole conversations. And the minute you like wake her up, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, okay. All right.
All right, this is what we're doing. All right.
And I would give her like the whole like 20 questions, third degree, like all the things, like I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I should have recorded these, but very funny.
So why is it that you wanted the original version of the artwork for Tashas Couldron and not the alternate?
There's something just compelling about it. It might just be the look of it. It does remind me of Mordenkainen, but it kind of gives me harken back to things like second edition as well. And it just seems like a solid piece. So the other edition looks more like a collage, almost like concept art.
Yeah.
Just like a thing, like just basically like the general concepts, while Tashas is really just this beautiful like splash page, this amazing artwork of the said character. And I think that it just has more personality to it. That might be the reason why I don't take the the special editions for all the other ones. Well, I think, what's his name? What's the artist name? Like 74 or something? 74 has a unique name.
Yes. Just yeah.
So
alt art. trying to find it. Keep talking.
Oh yeah, but just that concept where really beautiful. Like his work is gorgeous, but I prefer to see like just these like intimate pictures of just action happening. I think that's why like I love the Player's Handbook, Bolos. All these are just like they're things that are happening in the world.
It's Hydro 74.
Hydra 74. It's like another 74. So yeah. Again, gorgeous work. Like Hydra 74's artwork is phenomenal.
For people that don't know what it is, it's a lot of like vector artwork. I'm pretty sure. Isn't that what that's called?
Kind of. It kind of has like a vector and yet has a what's Mucha? Mucha is Alphonse Mucha is an artist. New Wave maybe. So it kind of looks almost like neoclassical, Greco style to some degree. But then there is like your vector line work behind it. It's really interesting. I think it's good. They're gorgeous again. His work is phenomenal, but I prefer the painted splashes and so forth. Because technically it matches all the other ones I have.
Oh yeah, true.
As well.
Well, it is 12:01.
Okay.
So, is there anything you would like to say before I outro?
No. Is it going to be this week? Yeah. So actually, this Friday we'll have a guest as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Then, thank you guys for coming out to watch. If you want to see any past broadcasts, go to either the PiP Podcast Facebook page, Oni Central YouTube, or the PiP Podcast on YouTube. All three of those have it. We always live stream Tuesdays and then every other Friday, 10:30 p.m. to 12 a.m. So that's the schedule, and this Friday is going to be a guest night. Every other Fridays are guest nights. And yeah, if you haven't followed, please hit the follow button, or if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button.